Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show, yeah.
Anyway, boys and girls, Matthew and Rizzle are back in the house. Another episode of Mars. We're still, maybe, I don't know if we're in the eye of shitcoin season or meme coin season, or if we're like past the eye or we're approaching the eye, but like the storm is raging and people are getting cabin fever, or they're just like enjoying the fuck out of this time and are posting all over the place. So yeah, dude, what's top of mind for you? Still shitcoin, meme coin season, or?
That's what I was just saying to Drago Nate right before we started recording, man. I'm like, shitcoins everywhere, man. It's like people are excited about shitcoins, people mad about shitcoins. It's just like shitcoins all up in the thing. It's I don't know, man. It's crazy to see the ripple effects, man. I feel like it's like really demoralized a lot of people.
Sorry.
What's that?
You said ripple. I was like, another shitcoin. Bad.
No, that was good, man. But it does seem like, dude, I feel like it hasn't even been that long since it's been like shitcoin season. And I feel like it's really like demoralizing people, or like playing like a large role on people's psyche in terms of like, I don't know, the direction that the space is going and everything. And like, I feel like, at this point, nothing could surprise me. This is just like the hot thing of the minute or whatever. But I don't know, man. I feel like the public response to it has just been like sort of insane to watch unfold, and I'm just sort of like taking a back seat on this one and watching it play out.
Yeah. It's so polarizing, but again, like if you zoom out, it's like we've seen this same party before. It's what we talked about last week. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what to tell people other than like just focus on good people and fun shit. And like if you can stomach more weirdness, like definitely bias for that. Like you just gotta wait it out if you don't like it, and if you do like it, just like go in there and try to make as much money or whatever as possible. It's just one of these weird facts of crypto life.
Yeah, and again, man, it's so like it's messed with gas prices for the first time in a long time, and like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who are sort of on the brink of like really being demoralized in this bear market. This was like the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. But you got to give props to like the builders, man. Like, building in this climate, I've like, this is like, I guess a little bit of a self-shill, man. I've been working on this async piece for their Forever Supper drop and everything, but they're like, building, and a good example of a project that's like building in the thick of it, man. Like, I remember when Conlon explained the whole concept to me about it, and I'm like, dude, this is like some really interesting, different stuff. And you just like love to see that kind of thing going on, in spite of all of this, again, man, Conlon, No Shot, those guys are a good example of people who they've seen this all before, whether or not they, are into shitcoins or not into shitcoins. We've all seen shitcoins before, and they're like, going about their business, trying to continue to iterate and, lean into whatever the next cool things are that they can figure out that we can do with this tech, man. So I feel like, you got to give even more props to the people who are just sort of like, still out there grinding, unfazed in general by like, whatever this current hype cycle is, because, whatever this is, there's going to be a next one too.
Yeah. So first of all, shout out Conlon, the whole async team. They're always innovating. They're always pushing things forward. And I think it's exciting for artists, the new framework that the dynamic blueprints, I think, as they're calling them, what they've created in their first project that they released using dynamic blueprints in the Last Supper, where you have like a master layer similar to what they did before, and they just let artists come up with like expansion packs that you can fill that master layer and customize it and update it as time goes by. Really, really cool. Positive side. For folks that have been in this space, I think it's an interesting wrinkle on collecting NFTs, like what it means to hold it, how you can potentially display multiple NFTs that you collect in an easy to see form factor. But fuck, it's expensive to even mint that setting that you can populate with the tables and the art and stuff. Like it's a free claim, but I'm looking like when I tried to mint last week, it was like 200 fucking bucks, dude.
Yeah, gas is brutal, man.
And I'm like, yeah, that it's cool for people that are here and that have a stack. No, it's a no-brainer. You have people like Matt Cain amongst many others, like Jonathan Wolf, a lot of other notable artists that are creating for it. But it is expensive. It's not going to move the needle for new users, for folks that are still on the outside looking in, right? And that's
agree
in the middle of shitcoin season with like the increased gas prices that you're talking about. That's the rub for anyone that's been 100% on chain. Like the moat, in this case, like a negative moat between like new potential collectors and users and new blood, it's just getting bigger because things are getting more expensive and more just out of the reach of regular consumer folks. So that's why like when people are running other experiments that are directly aimed at onboarding new folks, like Trevor Jones, the Evening Standard, Apollo Entertainment, they had like a 4-day open edition claim free on Nifty Gateway. I think I mentioned this either at the end of the whip last week or the end of our podcast. And it was directly aimed at new folks. It was like, fuck, like here's a name that's recognizable in the space, Trevor. Tied it in with the coronation, like for all the royalists out there. It's like a funny thing to tie it in with, but something that's all over the news and like normie news. So it's something that's familiar. And it's like, hey, that NFT thing you heard, here's a link to a website. You have an email to sign up. Boom, claim a free edition. And 20,200 people claimed it over the 4-day period. And that comprised 13,555 new signups, new users coming into at least Nifty Gateway. And Nifty Gateway is like the top of the funnel for folks coming into the NFT world. Like that's during this time in utilizing and leaning into the reality of the space. The shitcoin meme coin season is making it prohibitively expensive to do anything really on chain for regular folks, especially new folks. So leaning into that and doing something a little bit out of the norm to target new folks. That other side of the envelope, I think, is really, really important for folks to lean into, as much as what Async is doing, pushing it forward for the folks already here. You have to do both things, keep both parties in mind at the same time.
Yeah. So, dude, I'll play devil's advocate. Not that I totally disagree with you, but just for the sake of playing the other side of the fence. I do want to say, man, the Async project is cool, but it is also like there's like a learning curve to it too. You have to figure out like what's going on and how to interact with these things. And shout out to, and it is like unfortunately prohibitively expensive to mint some of these. Shout out to Fabiano, man. He put together like an entire pack of like 17 items or whatever that was reasonably affordable, at least at the time when I got it. And so it like basically filled up my whole room. So I was like, great, I get it. And you know, Fabiano is like one of my favorite artists out there. So I was like, this is a slam dunk for me. And it like was easy for me to get familiar with it after that because I had everything to play around with and everything. But anyway, man, this is definitely for like the super fans of the space and the people who are, you know, nerdy enough to nerd out on this kind of stuff. And they've had a lot of mints of like the core or whatever. It was like well over 1,000 the last time I looked at it because I'd been messing around with it. But anyway, man, to your point, it's certainly not like for the entry level person coming into this space. And there is a need for that. And I don't want to discount that at all. But I also still sort of feel like, man, like what I felt like, you know, a couple of years ago that normies in general like don't really care about like a lot of the actual stuff beyond speculation. And I almost feel like this last bull run, like we sort of proved that to ourselves. Like once the space had cleared out that, you know, are we really building for them at this point? Like I do feel like, you know, putting everything on the blockchain and all this stuff is the inevitable course of events. But I still feel like, you know, the steps towards even on Nifty Gateway, man, like not knocking them, because again, there's a place and a need for that. But in order to like, take custodial ownership of that NFT, you have to like still, jump through all these hoops that in my head, I'm like, in order to really onboard the masses, this is all behind the scenes stuff that is, worked out on the front end, or like we've got a long road to educating people on a large enough scale for them to get familiar with how to actually interact with this technology beyond just like being able to figure out how to sign up for an account and like grab a thing that they might be able to like dump later on, type of thing. Again, man, not knocking anything. I think there's room for like both concepts, and probably a lot more room for people playing in the middle there.
Yeah, I mean, I think more people need to play in the middle, because I mean, I think your take reminds me a little bit of the take like early 2021, like with normies coming in here, like more focused on speculation, blah blah blah. Of course, there's always going to be that. I mean, that's a huge part of like the quote unquote like OG community, the speculation, the degen behavior, right? But even just anecdotally from the Trevor Jones thing, one of a collector whose first NFT was from that Trevor Jones claim, the next day, Jisoo had to drop on Nifty, and that same collector came in and participated in a ranked auction for Jisoo, spent a couple $100 collecting one of their editions, and they were they don't have an on-chain presence anywhere, and they're collecting the art. They found this place, it was free. They finally got it, and they started collecting. Like maybe they'll resell it. Nothing that they have is listed, again, like single piece of anecdata. But bringing people in for whatever reason, there's more things regular people, quote unquote normie people, will see, and like will see as familiar. Collecting is an age-old thing that translates digitally, physically, whatever, and it's just showing people that you can do that. And then if they want to take it and self-custody it, they just set up a MetaMask if that's what they want to do, and just send it to themselves. Like there's zero barrier to actually self-custodying, at least on Nifty.
But that is the barrier though, and that's not Nifty's fault. That's like or anyone's fault really, man. I just feel like that's like sort of just puts into perspective where we are with the tech, man. MetaMask, to people who are like unfamiliar with any of this and are just like, hopping into Nifty, scooping up this Trevor Jones, they're pretty landlocked, man. And it's not Nifty's fault. And I'm sure like they give them all the resources in order to unlandlock themselves. And you need something like that in order for people to be able to not have to figure out MetaMask, man. But I mean, you've tried to do this before too, man.
Alternative to like, are you arguing for like a new alternative to MetaMask, or like what do you mean? Like how landlocked?
No. I'm not really arguing anything other than saying that we're early enough in the tech in general that it's just very prohibitive for a lot of people entering into the space to really interact with it in a way that we hope them to. Like, the person that goes from the Trevor Jones, the brand new entry, to a Trevor Jones scoop, to a JN purchase, to understanding custodial ownership, like that's like a chain of things that I think Web3 in general needs to unlock better before we really hit like normie, like mainstream adoption. I don't think that's anyone's fault. And I think everyone's sort of trying to do the best job that they can in like informing people and pointing them in the right directions. But it's just so many things to understand to like really grasp what people are getting themselves into. But shit, man, I mean we got to start somewhere.
No, 100%. And I it's probably the equivalent of like going hiking or like mountaineering or something like that. Anyone can go out like using the clothes that they have in their bureau, like the shoes that they have like sitting out on the front door stoop, and go try to climb a mountain. But when they try to climb a mountain, they'll see other folks that have like way more sophisticated gear that seems to be aiding them, right? That's the situation we're in now, right? You can come into Nifty Gateway. Oh, it's like the green pastures at the base of a mountain. But then you see like the big steep summit ahead, and you see all these fucking degens like flying around, like pushing F, jumping up. And you're like, how are they doing that? They're like, oh, the MetaMask and other shit like that. And it's like, oh, what's that? Oh, you just click to a link to download it, and then it's like this account, except I control everything, and no one can lock it or take it away or whatever. That's sort of where we're at. And like we're talking about mountain climbing here, but like if you zoom out the landscape for crypto, it's yeah, there's a few things people need to do. In the past, it's like 2 years ago, maybe last year even, it seemed like there are multiple mountains people needed to surmount in order to like figure things out. Now they're like rolling hills, man. Like what's the barrier to download a MetaMask and things like that? What's the barrier to actually understanding it? Oh, there's this thing that's happening on an on-chain marketplace, and since it's not like a Nifty Gateway, you need to download this one thing, and then you can go over there and do the thing. It's the same fundamental experience, but just the different layers that become clearer over time. I don't know if that's ever going to change. Like, there's always going to be like at least a couple hills that people need to familiarize themselves with, right?
Yeah, yes. I guess I just feel like it's still pretty janky. And while we have come farther, I don't know that it's like I I still sort of feel like I did before, man. That like we're ready in terms of like the tech is there, the cool stuff is all in place and everything. But in terms of like being able to educate it and streamline it for people, like I still feel like we got to get it to a point where consumers are educated enough and the tech is streamlined enough where like all this shit is like pretty self-explanatory. And I don't have like a great vision like at the moment of what that is now, but like a lot of things, a lot of the most successful apps, ways of purchasing things are like really, really dumbed down and like stupid intuitive and everything. And I don't know that we ever like really get to that point, but I feel like the mountain has to eventually become a hill before the space is really like going to see the influx of like the type of people we want like coming into the space. And until then, man, I feel like it's a slow trickle. It's still like, that those 5 steps or whatever to get to that like self-custodial thing. And I don't know. I mean, I would love to see some stats, man. It'd be really interesting to see how many people, do actually make that progression of I don't know what you would call it, going full Web3, getting your check mark or some shit like that. But I don't know, man. It's all interesting stuff, and it all has a place.
Like William Savis, like Sergito, like some of the bigger names that you're seeing in the space. A lot of those people, it was Nifty, for example, that like was their onboarding point of entry into this whole space. But the question I have for you, like, do you want a future where it's people are coming in self-custody first, and that's like a simple no-brainer thing, and not have like the halfway points, like the Nifty Gateway equivalents? Do you want the latter to just not be necessary, or like what is your ideal state in the future? Just trying to understand that too.
So let me take it from like a gaming perspective, man, and maybe we're talking about like several different spheres. So like my kids playing Minecraft, for example, and you could compare like a lot of these metaverse platforms that you have a lot of similar features and everything, and you craft a bunch of shit and sell it on the marketplace and everything. And if that marketplace was like an open marketplace in like a similar format to what he was doing right now, he could be interacting with Web3 and doing exactly what he's doing now and have no idea that he's actually participating in an exercise of self-custody, because the self-custody portion would be self-explanatory because it just is the way it is. And so I feel like that's the point we have to get to, where like self-custody is like the default like expectation almost, or something comes out that's just like such a huge like hitter in that realm that just deliver or serves it up in such a way that like that's just the expectation type of thing moving forward. And I don't feel like we've hit that tipping point yet with anything. We're like setting ourselves up like in the grand scope of things in Web3, but no one's really like uncorked or uncracked that thing in a way that like really dishes it out well.
Are you still there?
Yeah, sorry, did I cut out?
Oh no, it was just like a really crisp, clean like stop to what you're saying. I was like, damn, that was the best stop I've ever heard.
Blam, mic drop.
That was a total mic drop. Yeah. So what you're describing to me, it's hard for me to even imagine Why? Because self-custody for me, it's like pay to play. There's always that we gotta get people to pay first. Like you can download the tools needed for it, but then you gotta fund it, right? Or you can go out and earn it. Like the earning funnel on chain is what is most necessary to make that future that you're describing more possible. We need more of that somehow, in some way. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And like from building a couple projects already in the space from Cent over to Nifty, I don't see that self-custody like more fully on-chain default future happening, period. Like it's going to be a spectrum for a long time. And there needs to be more of an appreciation for that. There needs to be more halfway points, way stations where people don't need to worry about paying to play at first if they don't want to, right? Like the games starting from like a Minecraft or Roblox, like the free versions of those where you can do things and earn in the game without having to pay to accept the in-game assets that actually are like NFTs in the back end. And then if they want to like take it out on chain and do the thing there, then they can do that in a way that's free for them and then it allows them to earn on chain and then have the on chain experience in a way that they don't think about paying to engage and the paying to help support that network that's allowing for this open permissionless experience and the ability for them to self-custody their assets without worrying about an intermediary or whatever. Like there has to be that spectrum. I don't see that disappearing. I don't see the need for like the 2.5 approach disappearing anytime soon, period. Like it doesn't make sense to have a full 100% in the near future.
Dude, I agree. I think but I guess I think we completely agree on that point, man. I don't think we're getting away from Web 2.5 anytime soon. And I guess my thing is like, I guess I just question how many more people care about Web 2.5 than they do about Web 3. Certainly more. But I'm like, is this really like the tipping point that's going to drive a whole lot of people in there by like, well, not by anything. I don't think anyone's trying to like, stick around in Web 2.5. I think everyone wants to move in that like more seamless direction and everything. But the tech is what it is, and we only got to work with what we have to work with. But I don't know. I guess that's my thing, man. I feel like not a whole lot of people were interested in Web 3, like not that long ago, and certainly we got like a spotlight on us. But like, I just question like now that the spotlight's not on us as much, like. Are there really that much more people interested in it, like enough to participate in Web 2.5 and then make the transition to Web 3? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know, man. It's interesting food for thought. Certainly more, man. And there's got to be like better onboarding, like attempts and platforms and people straddling that line. So you don't have to like spend a year and a half in here to figure out what the hell is going on. That's for sure.
No, yeah, we totally agree. And I think there needs to be more focus on building those exciting experiences that attract those folks in that easy to kind of initially experience way that has that opportunity to go way further into like the crypto ecosystem and all the benefits that we know are inherent to that. That's just the big hope. Like the gaming, all the games that behind the scenes that have been in development for years that hopefully should be coming to market maybe end of year, beginning of 2024. Hopefully that helps in a way bring more folks that they have the mindset there. Like the gaming is one of the perfectly positioned industries and sectors to onboard folks in a way that's natural, right? Gamers are already paying for the skins and shit and in-game like experiences and benefits, right? That ability or that willingness to pay is like the key ingredient needed for the quote unquote like new blood that's onboarded to this space to come in and actually have an impact. Like if we're just getting no shade to like grandmas or grandpas, but if we're just bringing grandma and grandpa to come in and like collect one little like trinket, NFT trinket, and that's it. Like they care about their grandkids and doing things for them in real life before they leave the world, right? They don't care about this other stuff at that point. So it's the demographic that you're targeting with these like more seamless onboarding experiences that's going to be key. And hopefully there's more folks than we've seen building towards that end.
So this is actually like a good example, man, of like something, and I think we're in agreement as well. So like, my mom, for example, it's like, I don't know, maybe you finally grasp what an NFT is after like a long time explaining and everything. And, she hangs out with me enough that she probably has to have some grasp. But anyway, I think the average person my mom's age, like probably is not like fully in the loop. No prejudgment or anything, but is familiar enough with like, say, downloading a movie or something like that, or is familiar enough with the concept that if you download the app and download a movie on it, they can figure it out. And like, that's some type of thing that like, if with NFTs, we need like a better interface, right? Like the same type of thing could be going on where, and now my mom's, got custody of the movie that she downloaded. It's in an app that looks just like another app that she's familiar with, but also there's like a section in there that has like bids. And then, she's just like, what is this? So I've got a bid on like this, movie that you downloaded for me. And it's like, oh, whatever. And I feel like we can get there, man. We're not like too far away from there. And that's like the landslide point, right? Where we like serve up the same type of stuff that people are used to, but like all of a sudden it's got like the aggregator that interfaces it with all like the Wild West, marketing bids and places and all this shit going on. But I don't know. I feel like it's the inevitable course of events, but it seems like so far away.
Yeah, I think we're closer than normally. You're more positive on this front, but I think we're a little bit closer than you may think. I'm actually a little bit more optimistic on that front. I think there's so many more builders that have accrued very invaluable experience over the course of the last bull market and into the bear market that understand what works, what doesn't at a pretty high level in a way that is going to allow them to build compelling things for folks that they'll get. And folks that are familiar enough downloading videos will understand, and streaming online will understand. So it will take a little bit of time, and you always have to have a little bit of the luck of the market and making sure that the attention is shed on those projects in the right way, but cautiously optimistic on that front.
Well, dude, while I'm like shitting on everyone's parade, I'll just keep shitting. So like,
Not all.
I shit on all parades today. So I think the biggest, I think we are almost dependent on like a new generation of creators, like adopting this tech and building there first, because I think a lot of the older generations, I think we're screwed by their like comfort and familiarity with a lot of like the mainstream IP that they would, go to inherently download, or that will be out there, or that is on like cable television still. And, that kind of thing that, caters a lot to an older audience. And I feel like a lot of them are like probably locked in that and don't have an interest in what is probably going to be dependent on a lot of up and coming creators to not lock themselves into like record deals and movie contracts, and try and push independent creative or like a Web3 version of things, and all that IP and all the big hitting stuff that like really speaks to the normies is sort of locked in these silos that I think they want to keep in their silos. I don't know, man. Am I shitting too hard? Like, what's your take on that?
So I was thinking about something similar the other day. Like, if this space is to have any future, it needs to be a space that's continuously open to shit talkers and provocateurs and folks that are into doing subversive shit. Those are key ingredients of like every new generation's like zeitgeist, like the cultural energy that excites them, that is the new, that the world hasn't seen yet, that like didn't exist and now it is here, and it's driving forward a generation of people, right? To do cool shit and to keep it fresh and exciting, right? If this space is no longer open to those types of folks, we're done. Stick a fork in it and stick a fork in us. But, and I don't like this guy at all or his friends, but like the Rider Rips, the 0x Polys, like these shit talkers, the ones that are like constantly trying to fuck with everything, they're hugely important to the space.
Yeah.
Because they, even if you don't align with them, other people are going to see them like, oh, that's cool. Like the shit talking, like stirring the shit pot and getting people like excited and angry. Like, fuck yeah, let's make more people angry. There are more tools to make more people angry and to upset the status quo in many, many sectors inherent in crypto, open to anyone if
Agreed.
they put together and use the tools in the right ways. And I'm optimistic that as long as more people see that and realize that they can do that, we'll be good. We'll be comfy for a long, long time. And there's a lot of cool things that people will be able to do to generate that excitement, to kind of have that sharp break from the quote unquote like accepted norms and like the boomers of every generation that only want to keep things their way that they're familiar with. Like the ability to stir the pot is crypto's secret sauce, in my personal opinion. It's just we need to make that possibility and that potential way more clear, way more apparent for folks, so that they can get in here and do that shit that's exciting and new. Because the moment we stagnate, it's the moment like everything fucking dies, and we just it's a gift and curse that we have the ability to have so many tools that let people shit talk so much. But we're at that precarious point where like the governments are like, oh shit. You can see them coming in, like the US government in particular, trying to lay down the gavel in a very heavy-handed way. And that's a huge risk. I don't know if that's exactly responding to what you were saying, but it felt very similar to what I've been thinking about recently.
No, dude, I'm with it, man. Let's end on a high note, man. I co-sign on everything you said, and it actually makes me feel a little bit better about all of my parade shitting, which I don't necessarily retract, but I'm picking up what you're putting down, man, and I feel exactly the same way about the ability to stir the pot more than ever here. So as a pot stir, man, I'm with it.
Parade shitter pot stir. I feel like there's a title in there somewhere. Oh yeah, dude. Quick plug for this week's whip. We have Strawberry Sith coming on with the Causality crew. He's been cooking up something interesting at the intersection of NFTs, physical goods, digital experiences. So if you have any physical goods with NFC chips enabled or built into the physical good that's linked to an NFT, bring those to the whip on Thursday. You'll have an exciting new like digital object that you'll be able to claim. If not, don't worry. We'll have a nice screen share where Strawberry Sith will deliver the cleanest, most succinct explanation of why NFTs make sense both digitally and physically. And then we have a big update or a ribbity update from the Fly Frogs crew. Do you have any more to say on what Fly Frogs are cooking up for the whip?
Yeah, big update and a whole bunch of alpha drop, as well as some giveaways from Fly Frogs and everything. So I'll save it for tomorrow, but it'll be fun for sure.
Boom. There we go. High notes. All right.
High notes.
See you in the metaverse on Thursday, dude.
All right. Take it easy, man. Later.
Boom. There we go.
Good shit, dude.
Yeah.
Great.
I love this conversation. Like we're so close together, but there's so much space to run in between. And I think a lot of people are going to see that and they're like, oh shit, yeah, this is what I've been feeling. This is what I've been thinking. I love that.
Yeah. Good shit, dude. All right, man. Let me jump.
All right. Peace, dude. Later.